When one reads the commentary of Rashi to Yehuda's demand that Hotziyuha b'teisaref, he frames Yehuda's response within the structure of Torah law. The sin of Tamar is not that of harlotry, but a violation of what later becomes one of the Ten Commandments of law, tin'af. She's guilty of committing adultery, and according to later Torah law, adultery would attract the death penalty. The issue that Rashi faces, it seems, is that if Yehuda is applying what later was to become Torah law, penalty for adultery is not burning, but rather chenek. Vayikra 20:10 states, "V'ish asher yinaf et eshet ish," the individual who has an illicit relationship with a married woman that is consensual, mot yumat, there is a death penalty involved, and mot yumat is understood to be code for chenek, which begs the question, why did Yehuda demand the more serious and more painful form of death, that of sreifa, burning at the stake? And in response to this question, Rashi quotes from the Bereshit Rabbah, a statement attributed to Ephraim Miksha'ah, quoting from Rabbi Meir, that Bito Shel Shem Haita Tamar was a direct descendant from Shem, one of the three sons of Noach. Amongst the families of Noach, Shem was a Kohen, and therefore lefichach danuha besreifa. Torah law demanded that a bat kohen who commits adultery has a greater degree of culpability on account of the fact that she has brought the kahuna into disrepute, and therefore is liable for the more harsher punishment. Bat ish kohen, daughter of a kohen, ki techel liznot, who is promiscuous, ba'esh tisaref, punishment is death by fire. Ramban takes issue with Rashi in his application of Vayikra 21:9 to Tamar. First, he clarified what he thinks was the intent of Rashi from the very outset. He establishes that the term liznot, normally translated as harlotry and prostitution, cannot be the understanding of this pasuk, because nowhere in post-Matan Torah do we have a situation where prostitution or harlotry in of itself is punishable by death. There may be a lo ta'aseh, a negative commandment that the individual has violated, but this is no better, no worse than eating non-kosher food. And therefore, he maintains there must have been, from the standpoint of Rashi, a situation of adultery. And it is because of the violations of the laws of adultery, Yehuda decreed that ba'esh tisaref. The problem with this line of thinking, argues the Ramban, is that it assumes that Tamar was at the time a married woman. In reality, this was not the case. Post-Matan Torah, with the formal establishment of Yivum, following the death of the first husband, the widow was prohibited from having a relationship with anyone other than the brother. There was the option of chalitza. She was deemed to be a shomeret yavam, and in worst case scenario, a shomeret yavam enters into an illicit relationship, is also once again only in violation of a lo ta'aseh, not something that attracts a death penalty. Lo yadati hadin hazeh, I don't quite understand this line of thinking. Shebat kohen eina chayevet sreifa ela biznut im zikat habal. The only time a bat kohen might attract a punishment of death is when she is still attached to a husband, either an arusa or an asua, either through engagement or formal marriage. This is a point that's established in Gemara Sanhedrin. Aval, however, a bat kohen shomeret yavam, if she is not attached to a living spouse, merely a shomeret yavam who shezinsa, who enters into an illicit relationship, ena b'mitzat klal, does not attract any form of a death penalty, or ben bat Yisrael or ben bat Kohen, whether she is a bat Yisrael or a bat Kohen, ena ela belav greda. At worst, she is in violation of a simple lo ta'aseh, and therefore the Ramban takes a very different approach to that of Rashi with respect to Yehuda's demand to hotziyah b'teisaref. But first, a slight digression into the area of tribal justice.